One, any action?
Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today for this wonderful webinar. Sorry. Thanks to our domain provider, the .ke provider, that's Kenik. This is a webinar. Today, we are going to be addressing some very, very critical things in the industry. And, you know, for everyone out there who doesn't know what this month is all about, this is a cybersecurity month. And we are really glad to see that our domain providers actually take cybersecurity very, very seriously. And, you know, this is for us to actually understand what they've been doing for the data they have on us, what they do on our domain systems, how we can actually understand security around the domain system. So thank you so much for joining us today. With me today, I have a fantastic panelist who will introduce themselves. I know that last time I put them on the spot, so this time I'll try to make sure I also do the same. I'm sorry if you were waiting for an apology, but I'm still gonna do the same. And I want to start from, ladies first. Please introduce yourself to the guys online so that they can understand what you do, and please explain what you do exactly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judy. Can you hear me? Thank you very much, Judy. My name is Beth Njao. I'm the Data Protection Officer at Kenik. I'm happy to be here. Kenik is the organization that has been tasked to administer the country code top level domain, that is the .ke. And so it's our mandate to make sure that the data that is submitted to us, it is protected, and I spearhead that role. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beth.
My name is Barak Otieno. I'm the General Manager, Africa Top Level Domains Organization, the regional association of country code top level domain registries like Kenik across the African continent. Kenik is our host. It hosts the regional secretariat, and therefore we consider it as one of the best case studies in domain name management across the African continent. Glad to be here as always, and I'll be looking forward to contributing to the conversation. And I look forward also to questions and active conversations from our online viewers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And last but not least.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Kenik, for hosting us for this important session. I am Frederick Wahome. I'm the Vice Chair at Kenya Cybersecurity and Forensic Association. So apart from that, I run a company, Secunet Technologies, and we are registrars for .ke for the last close to 12 years now. And this is one of my best sessions, considering that I'm coming from a security perspective and also from a registrar perspective. We look forward to great interaction and learning from this session. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Frederick. Thank you. And last but not least, sorry, we have somebody online. That would be Sharon. Sharon, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Please do go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you. My name is Sharon Wata. I'm the Deputy Director in charge of training at Kenya Copyright Board, but I'm an IP lawyer. I have been a copyright prosecutor. And I'm happy to be here discussing this subject. IP is my specialization.
All right. Thank you so much, Sharon. At least the panel is 50-50, so I'm happy. I'm happy here, 2 women, 2 guys. So thank you so much. So we're going to start with the, elephant in the room, and I'll start with Frederick on this one. A few months ago, was it a few weeks ago, our e-citizen was not sitting so well. Our government, system was compromised, and maybe you can help the audience and us also understand in terms of what are the current trends that the government needs to look into when it comes to cybersecurity, so that something like that doesn't happen. And exactly what was the effect of that attack on the e-citizen platform?
Okay, thank you very much, for that question. And as a nation, we are in a very interesting season or dispensation by the fact that we are in that dispensation of digital transformation, where we have seen a lot of conversations around digital, digitalization, and we are going to rely a lot on technology for economic growth and running of our businesses. And as we do that, as it is the norm where there's something good, there will always be something bad about whatever you're considering as good. So the more we adopt technology and digital, the more we also encourage more criminals, cyber criminals, to take advantage of what we are considering as good. In this case, digital transformation. And government has been very, let's say, vocal along that line. And in the last few, like 3 months, we have been able to witness a number of cyber breaches, what we can be able to consider as cyber breaches. And a cyber breach is just something that affect the platform, the technology platform. It affects it negatively, so that it will not be able to be used the way it's supposed to be used. For instance, if you take an example of eCitizen, the reason the platform is there is to provide services to the citizen. But if something happens and the services go down, then the public are unable to use these services. And about a month ago, we were able to see that the eCitizen platform was down, and the government is the one that came out and told us that there was a breach. And upon more investigation, it was a denial of service. This is where someone is able to send many requests to the computers that are hosting services, such that they are unable to service legitimate requests. So when the citizens accesses this platform, so they are unable to be serviced the right way and within the time that they are supposed to be serviced. So where we are going now, it is important for the government and even organizations to be able to consider security in almost everything that they are doing. For instance, before they adopt the digitization, is it possible to look at those things from security perspective? Can they ask themselves, yes, are we only focusing on the numbers, that we have many people signed up to eCitizens, that we have 10,000 services signed up? What about the effectiveness of the services? Cyber breach can be able to affect those services negatively. And where we are going, courtesy of artificial intelligence, we have different tools being built. It is now becoming very simple and easier for someone to even conduct a cyber breach. All you need is to sign up for a service. And the more we continue to adopt digitization and digital transformation, to embrace all these digital strategies, more we are also promoting, just to say in quote, we are promoting, there are some young people who are coming up, and it is becoming easier for them also to bypass the controls put in place. So in this case, and in short, in a simplified way, we appreciate all the digital strategies from the government perspective. But again, they need to consider having strategies in place to be able to protect the customers being the citizen. And this is going to overflow to the organizations, the corporate, and there can never be a good time as this, now that we are also in the Cyber Awareness Month.
Yeah.
We'll continue to simplify as we continue to converse. Thank you.
All right. Barak, you seem to agree so much on that. Did you have a point to add on to what Frederick was saying? Feel free.
Yes. Well, I'm in part agreeing,
Yeah.
but equally based on the concepts that Frederick is pushing, I'm fully in agreement with that. I think to start with, it's important we appreciate where we are as a country.
Yeah.
We have learned from our election seasons that numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
And I think before I want to make my initial comments, we need to contextualize or set the scene. And I want to say that the discussion we are having is good, but the usage is still not good. According to Global System for Mobile Association, which brings together the mobile network operators, we are only having about 21% usage of products and services on the internet value chain. The reason is a good number of our citizens, the Wanjikus and Otieno's, as we call them, they're actually using Mulika Mwizis, feature phones.
Okay.
So when we are having this conversation, I would like us to be careful so that we don't legislate or over-legislate a space that does not exist in the first place.
Yeah.
If we look at our European counterparts, over 80% of domain name usage is in the global north, Europe and the Americas. In fact, we have approximately 360 million domain names registered across all top-level domains, of which Africa accounts for less than 1%.
Yeah.
Meaning that we have to do a lot of work.
Yeah.
We can't really blame the African continent because we are late entrants in this process. Most African countries started embracing the internet in between 1992 and 1995. So right now we are 25-year-olds. So if you looked at a 25-year-old, what would a 25-year-old be doing in life? Depending on how they are brought up and the exposure that they have, they may be far. But we are comparing ourselves with countries that started off in the 60s to build this industry.
Yeah.
And they have learned quite a bit.
Yeah.
So they are dealing with saturation.
Yeah.
They are dealing with misbehavior in the ecosystem, while we are just trying to bring people on board.
Are you saying we are doing it wrong?
We are not doing it wrong.
But we are still not doing it
I'm
right.
just setting the context.
Yeah.
You know, you don't demand a 2-year-old to sit a KCPE exam. But that's not an excuse in the first place. So I was just setting the scene. On to what Frederick has said, I think the KNBS shows that we have about 3 million e-commerce businesses in this country.
Interesting.
And if you check further, we have actually about 3 million people who are meaningfully employed.
Okay.
A good number are hustlers, as we put it that way. You know, they don't know what will happen at the end of the month, but they have to keep moving. So even as we think about this, I want to compare it to how the mobile network industry has grown, because the domain name industry is just the other side of the coin for the mobile network industry. The mobile network industry dishes out numbers. The domain name industry dishes out names.
Yeah.
So why is it that we have almost 19 million SIM cards out there, not people? Because the statistics claim that we have about 3 million e-commerce users, and so, you know, so the math is not mathing somewhere. So why is it that we have 19 million SIM cards out there and 103,000 domain names here? Those are the things that we need to interrogate.
Yeah.
For the 19 million SIM cards to be obtained, SIM cards were being hawked like peanuts in the streets. And most of us have not hundreds. Most of us have about 10 SIM cards. If you check,
how many do you have? How many do you have?
I know the legitimate ones are 3. But there are a number out there that I'm not sure about. And it's the same case for all of us.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that as we contextualize this conversation and as I pick on what Frederick has brought about, we need to be careful so that we don't muzzle the ox.
Okay.
You know, people then, they see kitu tuki embrace e.ke, then tumemulikwa, as we say out there. We need to encourage them to come on board in a meaningful way so that we can grow this ecosystem. So those would be my opening remarks, and I hand it back to you.
All right, thank you so much. You know, with that context, Beth, please do tell us. We know KENIC holds some of our very critical data. I don't know if you're allowed to say what kind of data, But it would be interesting to know in terms of security what you guys have put in place to make our users or to make our data be safe in a world of digital exploitation.
Thank you very much, Judy, for that question. We hold very critical data, and that is the domains that are registered by our registrars. KENIC does not register domains. So with regards with how we protect the data, first, KENIC is a registered data controller. We are registered with the Office of the ODPC. We handle this from two perspectives. There's the policy level and the system level. So at the policy level, we have data sharing policy. What does this policy do? In case a particular domain has an issue, you cannot just walk in and tell KENIC, we want this domain. Why do you need it?
Yeah.
So we have a policy and a guideline that gives all the details, what you need from you, why do you need it? So that in case that information lands in the wrong person, we at least know where to start. We also have the WHOIS policy. This is a policy that outlines the information that should be collected by our registrars. As you know, right now, we have the data protection principles that encourages data minimization. So we also make sure that the information that is submitted to KENIC, it is not excess. It is just what is required. We also have a contractual agreement between KENIC and our registrars. This is signed at the moment of being onboarded. And lastly, we have things like information security that definitely manages not all the processes internally, and data protection privacy notice. From the system level, we enforce things like passwords, 2FA, access controls, and definitely awareness. We all know that human being is the weakest link.
Yeah.
So we always make sure that our staff are well equipped with all the information.
Are you telling me I can't buy a kenic.me.ke?
Directly from KENIC?
Yeah.
No, KENIC is the admin.
Yeah.
So we have registrars who do that on our behalf.
Okay.
We are the data controller.
Yeah.
Our registrars are the data processors.
So if I was to buy a domain from your registrar,
Yes.
could I buy a kenic.me.ke?
Yes.
I could.
We have our licensed
Yeah.
registrars
Yeah.
by the CE and also not accredited by KENIC.
Yeah.
They are all listed on our website.
Yeah.
So yes, you can go to the website, check out their packages,
Yeah.
and then complete the whole process. They are automated.
So you're telling me KENIC wouldn't dispute the kenic.me.ke?
So long as you're not infringing
What is
on a
infringement?
brand.
What is infringement?
You wake up and decide to ride on a brand like safaricom.me.ke.
Yeah.
You're already infringing on Safaricom since it's already trademarked and it's well known in the market.
Okay.
They will definitely bring a dispute to us.
Yeah.
So and so is riding on our brand. Or you wake up and register Airtel.
Yeah.
Definitely that will cause an infringement.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. And Sharon, is Sharon still with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
All right, Sharon,
Listening
maybe
to you
yeah,
talking about infringement.
yeah. Please delve in. This is your time to shine, my dear. So for copyright infringement, please do give us some context, give our viewers some context around the copyright infringement and what a .ke domain user needs to know exactly.
Well, when it comes to domain names, largely the disputes around IP would be around trademarks. As Beth had put it earlier, whatever she was describing, the cyber squatting, yeah, where you kind of preempt a registration of a trademark for a third party as your domain name. And so, as she said, you're riding on a well-known name already, and maybe that person didn't register it as a domain name, but they have it as a trademark, yeah? And usually you'll find people would register, cyber squatters would exploit that principle of first come, first serve, where you go, when you're there first, you register the domain name, and they register names of trademarks, names of famous people, names of businesses, which they have no connection to. So since the registration of the domain names, I don't know for KENIC, but generally worldwide, if I use the for a name, like she said, Safaricom, you know, a famous name. So you're riding on it, yeah, you're cyber squatting. So you'll find most of the disputes around domain names would be because of trademark infringement as opposed to copyright. Yeah? Can you still hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you, Sharon. Keep going.
Oh, sorry. No, I was getting a message that my internet is unstable.
Yeah.
So usually you'll find what they do, they want to offer now, after they register the domain name, then they want to auction it or offer it for sale to that person or to that company, of course, at a far much bigger price than what they registered for example, yeah? And you see the alternative would be to let somebody use your name or to buy it from them at a very exorbitant price. So usually you'll find when it comes to intellectual property rights, trademarks usually is what the dispute would be around. You see, nowadays, domain names have also become like business identifiers, yeah? And so if you think about it, maybe the businesses that were already there before the arrival of the internet and all this, you find they're conflicting with the current systems that are there, because you will come, you will register a domain name of a name that has existed like for 150 years. And there's nothing this other person can do apart from either buy it from you from a lot of money or you auction it away. So usually when you're talking about IP rights and the disputes around domain names, usually you'll find it's because of trademarks as opposed to copyrights. Trademarks is a mark you register to identify your business. It could be a name, it could be a logo, something that will distinguish your business from another person's business. And it also would speak to the services you offer or the goods that you're offering. So generally, with trademarks are the ones that we use for business to identify your businesses. Copyright usually would cover artistic works, literary works, and musical works. So the IP for copyright wouldn't really apply to domain names as opposed to the trademarks. I don't know how much time you have given me to talk.
I think, thank you so much, Sharon. I think that clarifies a few things for us. Thank you so much. And I think I've been in a room where I saw a dispute actually on the same, and you guys take it very seriously. Yeah, too seriously. I'm sorry to say. Don't go buying domain names of companies that you're gonna have trouble in. Barak, there's a question I wanted to ask. When it comes, you mentioned that we are trying to give a 2-year-old, the scenario 2-year-old afanye KCPE or KCSE, yeah? Which is it's close to impossible, yeah? Unless they are genius. We have those few cases. So that's what Kenya is trying to do at this point, where we've been doing digitization for the last 25 years, but we are trying to cap what people have been doing for the last 60 years. So then this brings on a sense of collaboration. This brings on a sense of ensuring that we understand what other people are doing as well, for us to also know what we need to take. So please talk to us about collaboration for the Africa Top Level Domain Organization in terms of security, digitization, what can we actually take away from them, and how should we collaborate? And I'll also pass the same question to Frederick as well, in terms of capping cybersecurity issues around our digital platforms. How can we collaborate to make sure we are somewhere?
Thank you very much. I think I'll use this opportunity to introduce Africa Top Level Domains. But before I go that direction, what I want to stress on is majority of us are good at how to use domain names, but we don't answer the question, why do we use domain names? I was reading a newspaper article, an interview where the KENIC chairman, Mr. Shimanyula, was interviewed a couple of weeks ago about the current state of the .ke domain names. And he alluded to the fact that many people buy domain names for temporary use and then discard them afterwards. So we have a lot of what is referred to as churn in marketing lingo, where, 10,000 are bought this time, then by next year, time like this, they've disappeared because probably you bought it because you needed to apply for a tender somewhere, for lack of a better word. That's what happens. And I think it shows that this is not a resource that we are using very well. It's like buying land because you are hoping that a road is going to be built somewhere. And when it's not built, you discard it, or you just leave it and you disappear. That's technically what we are doing. So I think the greatest challenge that we have is the why. Why should we buy domain names? And the world, in terms of internet management globally, has been split into regions. And there are organizations that have been created to manage development and growth of the internet in those particular regions. With respect to the domain name ecosystem, and when I say the domain name ecosystem, most of us cannot remember numbers. For example, we have phones, but maybe I can only remember 5 numbers of the people who are closest to me, which I have put on my favorite list. But the rest I have to put a name. And sometimes the name is, it depends with the circumstance. It can be John Makar or Ochieng Maindi, the place where I buy maize or something like that, because this is the name that I can relate to when I'm looking for this guy. So the domain name is actually very similar to that. So technically, the guy who sells roast maize for me, especially when it starts raining, those Kenyan habits, he needs to be online, because by the time I arrive there, it's already gone. There are those who are circumstantially hanging in the wings, but he can't plan for his business as well. I'm just trying to make it simple, because there are many people or many techies that are not following, because probably many people who are not following because they think this is a technical conversation, but it's not. This is a business conversation. And we have when it comes to regions, we have the Africa region. The Africa Top Level Domains Organization has the responsibility to grow the domain name ecosystem insofar as country code top level domains are concerned. So I will explain what is a country code top level domain. A country code top level domain is simply a code that denotes a country. This code is given by the International Standards Organization. Kenya is a voting member of the International Standards Organization. And there's a standard that is called the ISO 3166. Growth pains, let me put it that way. I was talking about what a country code is, and I mentioned that a country code denotes a country and a territory. Now, we have some territories that are not necessarily recognized by the United Nations, and they don't have codes. So if you see .ke, or you see .tz, or you see .za for South Africa, that code has been given to that particular territory or that country, which is a member of the United Nations by the International Standards Organization. But that's not enough. Once the code is given, it also has to be put in a special book for the internet. It's called the root of the internet. The internet is like a tree. And there's an organization called the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers that does that work. So the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers has to wait for the International Standards Organization to recognize a country or a territory, give it its code. That's why we have .ke for Kenya. Sometimes we see our sprinters or marathoners, they have KEN. That's a different code. For the planes, they also identify each other with a certain code when they are flying. So it's just the same environment or the same context. But equally, we have names that are administered by the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. They are called generics. And most of us know of the .coms, the .orgs, and the likes. Let me start early by saying, when you buy a .com, that money goes to the US. That's the simplest I can go.
Yeah.
So we are sending our money. I've not said that a .com is bad,
Yeah.
but the money is going out. If you buy a .ke,
Yeah.
this money is staying here.
Okay.
I think we are in an era where we are talking about ushuru.
Yeah.
Kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea.
Yeah.
Hata kama hatulipi, lakini tunalipa. I know KRA is tuned in. Tunawapenda KRA. So if you buy a .ke,
Yeah.
the money stays in Kenya. And this is the simple conversation even across the African continent.
Yeah.
Later on, I'll say how our registries have actually contributed to advancement of the internet conversation on the continent. But Africa Top Level Domains Organization brings together the administrators or the managers of country codes across the African continent.
Yeah.
It builds the capacity of those who run these registries and the communities that also use these registries to answer the question, why? Because we have to understand, why are we buying these domain names in the first place?
Yeah.
And we have sister organizations, the Council for European National Top-Level Domain Registries in Europe, Asia Pacific Top-Level Domain Registries in the Asia Pacific, and Latin America and the Caribbean Top-Level Domain Registries in the Latin American region.
Okay.
So what we do is training and also kuhamasisha watu, the way we are doing here, on why they should buy their country codes.
Yeah.
And today I am dressed by Kenik to tell Kenyans to buy .ke.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're dressed by Kenik. I like that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Barak. And, you bring into perspective this thing where we say, support your local. I think women, we do that. You're like, support your local tailor or support the local businesses. But then also there's the meme of supporting your local tailor until that jacket is 10,000. Yeah. So the .com is what is 500 and the .ke is 700. Please help us understand why would I choose the .ke apart from kulipa ushuru, but then the pocket is not nice. Why would I support the .ke, not the .com?
Thank you for that. I think these are commercial conversations. Most of us in Kenya and the global south tunaishi kwa madeni, and we have to pay our debts. So it costs money to set up registry infrastructure. There are a lot of personnel that are running this registry infrastructure. And I'm not just talking about Kenya alone. I'm also talking about the other African countries. And sometimes there has to be conversations as to how the registry will meet its obligations. Beth has just told us that they have obligations to make sure that they protect our data. Frederick has talked about our obligations to ensure that our domain names are actually secure. We need stable systems. In fact, the internet is only as good as how we trust it.
True.
So we want Kenik to be available 99.9% of the time. It costs money to make it available during this period of time. But I believe also Kenik always has conversations with its registrars and the owners of domain names, registrants, as to how much they are willing to pay.
Okay.
So I think what I'm underscoring is let's be patriotic. Where the money is going is what determines the level of life. I saw yesterday that in Western, 70% of the budget goes towards food. So we need more money for food.
Really?
Yes, we need more money for a good life. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And maybe to also emphasize on the same is with the .ke disputes, you can actually handle your disputes right here at the Kenik offices,
Yeah, you can walk into offices
Yeah.
and file your dispute.
Yeah.
Alternatively, we also have a dispute lodging form in
Yeah.
our website.
Yeah.
So you file with us, you send an email to dispute@kenic.or.ke.
Yeah.
And then from there, we contact the registrar and the registrant. The first process is we always do a mediation process
Okay.
where we bring the two parties on board. We hear from the two of them. If they do not get to agree at that point, we escalate it to arbitration.
What exactly are they agreeing to? Give me my domain. No, I don't want your domain. No, this is my domain. I bought the domain first.
Not really. We
Yeah.
have to understand from the complainant and the respondent, why exactly did they register that domain? Does it infringe on all the, there are some categories we pointed out in our policy, what exactly leads to infringement.
Yeah.
We have pointers. So we check that. If it actually checks that they have already infringed,
Yeah.
then we either suspend the domain or we delete it,
Okay.
or even transfer it to the complainant.
Oof.
So if the two parties do not agree,
Yeah.
because now for us is purely mediation,
Yeah.
which is free.
Yeah.
If they do not agree, they escalate to arbitration.
Yeah.
This is where they get an arbitrator.
Yeah.
We have a list of our qualified arbitrators on our website.
Yeah.
So they contact it separately. Whatever they're going to agree, they give us the agreement.
Meskia, you delete super domain admin here, Kenik. Back to Frederick. And I think I had asked the same question I'd asked Barak in terms of collaboration. So for you, Frederick, maybe do help us in understanding how we can collaborate when it comes to cybersecurity, data breaches, privacy. I think we've jumped. I think this was said by I think Vusi when he was saying in Africa we're good at two things. We can move years. We can jump from Motorola to iPhone in a span of 1 year. So for Kenya, I feel we are in that position where we really jumped into digital transformation so fast. We embraced everything and we are very quick to embrace new technology. Look at M-Pesa, the evolution of fintechs through M-Pesa. So for us, we've jumped into digital transformation so fast, but then we've missed a very core part of the digital transformation, which is security. Yeah, so that's why we are facing data breaches now and then, issues of security, data, the data being stolen, money being stolen. So please help us understand, Frederick, how we can collaborate, and are we really equipped to actually handle the kind of attacks coming to us as a country?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And also, I agree with my colleague here that we need to do more. Allow me to, as a registrar and also as a cybersecurity professional, allow me to wear about two hats. The first hat is as an entrepreneur within the domain space, and try to contextualize the cyber issue within the domain namespace, and allow me to describe our customer, the customer who requests for a domain from us, and the key risk that they face, and some of the propositions that we give to them, and some of the cases that has come through. Some of them Kenny has assisted us to also resolve, so that we can also be able to localize this conversation and also try to contextualize it. What do I mean? We are in the domain conversation. So there are specific cyber breaches which affect the domain space. Yes, there are others that affect networks. There are others that affect databases. But for now, we would be able to look at that. So our customer, so they call or they write an email, they go to the website and they check that we provide domain names, and they request for registration. So some of them, we have an automated tool for them to make the search, and maybe after they make the payment, before they make the payment, our team counter check, and they conduct a number of things. If someone is registering a domain that somehow looks like a company, we may ask them to send the certificate of registration. So that can qualify as some sort of know your customer or know your business. So if we realize that whatever they are trying to register, after we do some online search, probably there's a business that already exists. So we ask them for proof of certificates of registration. If they cannot provide that, then we don't allow them to register. Well, yes, we have had situations where they have registered, they have cyber squatting where they register a name, yet it doesn't belong to them. Domain spoofing, domain hijacking. But we go a step ahead when our customer make a request for registration. We also provide them with a form and a page that provides some tips on what they are supposed to do to be able to secure their domain. So we also ask them, just as my colleague have shared, many register, we have seen this. They register so many domains, especially during the tenders. So they register like 3-4 domains. After they are done with the tenders, then they are not going to renew the domain. So some of them, they register so that they can also use the domain for email purpose. And this is where we go a step ahead to add value through a service that we provide through an open source solution called Zebra, which has some add-on features to hook them into these emails and somehow allow them to use the domain for 1, 2 to 3 years. So apart from that, we try as much as possible to have, like, after every 3 months, we have user awareness sessions to our customers, trying to show them that it is possible for someone to use your domain and even to initiate a cyber breach. And allow me to share this. One of the things that we have seen is that many organizations, they don't consider domain seriously when you come to conversations of cybersecurity. For instance, you look at IT policy in many organizations, they do not capture anywhere concerning the domain. So they have everything to do with servers, networks, databases, but you will not see them mention that we have a domain name. What are the risks? The risk that can come through use of that specific domain. And I think this is where somehow we are missing the point. We don't consider domain as a source or a vector of attack. And if you look at things like phishing, someone will just do some domain spoofing, email spoofing, and out of that, eventually it will culminate into a successful cyber breach. But remember, it is started from the domain itself. So number one is first to make sure that we create awareness to our customers that it is possible that by use of your domain, about 2 weeks ago, one of our customers, their domain, someone accessed their control panel and they uploaded web shell into their domain. And they started, these attackers, they started to phish, send some phishing emails to some people mimicking a certain bank. And we received that request from Kenik also through KESAT. Contact the customer. The customer said that he has no idea. And when we sent someone to scan their machines, one of their machine was already compromised. And that's how they got the password for control panel and they logged in. So the customer was asking us, so how can you help us? One thing is that we don't store the passwords for our customers' domains. So it is their responsibility. After we do the registration, I'm sharing a very practical scenario. After we do the registration, we usually send them emails and we request them to change the password to their domains and also password to their control panel. So another thing, if they are using the domain for email, we ensure that within our platform, our infrastructure, the domain name system that we use, we make sure that there are elements that can add more security into the domain and also into the mail communication. Because if you look at the key risk currently affecting the mail and the domains, we have things like something called, allow me to just go briefly technical. So we have something called DMARC, we have SPF, we have DKIM, and DMARC is just basically a domain-based message authentication and reporting and conformance. What do we mean? So this is after you send an email, you make sure that your registrar has made provision within that domain such that to the one that you are sending email to, the recipient of your email, they can be able to verify. They can verify the authenticity of that email, and they can also verify the integrity of the email. Did someone manipulate or change the content, the body of the email before it arrived? We have seen situations where you send an email with account number, bank account number, and it is, it is changed and someone sends money to the wrong account. SPF said a policy framework. So this is where, as a domain, you have registered domain with us. So we may help you to configure the email. And within that domain, there is a server that is responsible to send your email outside. And if any other server tries to send emails through spoofing, probably that one qualifies already as a cyber breach. And the last one, the DKIM. So this is just a signing of the emails, like a digital signature on your email. And depending on the sensitivity, the confidentiality of the email, you'll be so surprised that many customers, they do not sign their emails. So the recipient can be able also to confirm the integrity. They can verify the integrity of the email. So to us, this qualifies as the cyber breaches, which affect the domain namespace. Unfortunately, many of us registrars, we are not aware. We are in business. So we just get into business of registration. And one thing is that some of these things like cyber squatting and domain spoofing and hijacking, somehow KENIC may want to do something, but somehow they are not empowered such that they can be able to monitor and enforce. For instance, if you have to do with the UIS database, you are required to put the right customers' information, but somehow there are no structures to monitor me as a registrar that I have put the right information, because I never collected these details when the customer came to register for the domain. So that is already a whole thing by itself. And another one is there is the freedom of registration. What do I mean? I can register now. I can register. I'm sure I can register something like safaricom.something.ke, and it depends probably on the registrar, the consciousness, the awareness of the registrar that, wait a minute, we cannot register this domain for you. But if I give them 20,000, somehow they might register that domain. And as I wide up on that, the issue of collaboration is very key. Here we have the KENIC. KENIC cannot be able to work alone. They need us as registrar to be able to talk to our customers, to make sure that we create awareness to our customers as much as possible. And when there's a reporting issue of cyber fraud, domain fraud, then we can be able to collaborate and work with them. Also, we have seen organizations like CA coming on board. And also when you make this reporting, enforcement of something needs to be deleted or, removed, or a domain or a DNS, and other collaborations between the registrars, because it is the high time that we also try and to converse around this, especially amongst the registrars, such that you don't just venture into the business of registering domains, but you don't know that someone is going to register a domain, that in the next 3 months, that domain is going to culminate into one of the biggest cyber breaches in Africa. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Frederick. And I think even around that context, there's a question, and I like the question from Isaac Munga. Who should take responsibility when a domain is spoofed and used to send phishing email? Because you are talking about spoofing and phishing. I would like you to address that question.
Okay, a good question. Again, as we have shared in the context of domain, that we are supposed to take responsibility when a certain domain has already sent out phishing emails. Number one, when we have .ke compared to .com, it is a bit easier to trace who is the owner of the domain. So if someone sends through a .com, it becomes very hard for you to trace the owner of that domain. So when it comes to now .ke, we have a number of players here. So we have the KENIC as our let's say regulator in quote. We also have the registrar. We have the registrant, the person who registered the domain. For instance, in our case, we register a domain. We ask for business information of the customer, and he provides. They are in a genuine business, but they don't take precautions to protect their control panel. So someone uploads a web shell and they start phishing to other customers. And when this issue was sent to us, we were able to talk to the customer, and we wanted to really understand, are they the one doing this? So we went to their site, scanned a number of computers, and there was a proof that one of their computer was breached, and that's how they someone uploaded the files. So in this case, the person to take responsibility, number one, it starts at the registrar level. So how did you register this domain? So did you know that these people are in the business of cyber criminal and all that? Number two, the owner of the domain now, and it is easier. If it is a .ke again, it is a bit easier in terms of investigation, because all we did was write a report, forwarded to the KESET, and they communicated to KENIC, and that was sorted. And it took actually just a day. So there are numbers there. There's a way, if they registered through a registrar and it is a .ke, they must have paid through M-Pesa. So eventually, that now mutates to a criminal case. And this is where now the police comes in, maybe through KESET and probably DCI. So eventually the one who registered the domain is supposed to take responsibility.
Wow. Even if they no longer have control over the domain.
Somehow, yeah, because if they register the domain,
Yeah.
they have to prove that they are not the one who have granted these people to upload web shells, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But now, like now in our case, we were able to know who hacked,
Yeah.
who uploaded the web shells.
Yeah.
But you see, you need now to have technical skills.
Yeah.
At the many registrars, they do not have in-house cybersecurity professionals.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Barak, I don't know if you can address the first question. Can one claim a domain as a business or organization owner in a case where the developer who also registered the domain get lost and doesn't respond? Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think I'll just piggyback on what Fred has indicated or mentioned, in that we need to understand the roles and responsibilities of each of the players in the domain name ecosystem. Now, the model that KENIC uses, which is a global best practice for managing the .ke space, is a registry, registrar, registrant perspective. It's called a model. It's called a 3R model. So there are obligations that KENIC has. That's why it's licensed by the CA, and all registrars also have to be licensed by the CA. Frederick has just talked about, at some point, police can come in. Police normally come in because they are following the law.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they cannot. What basis will they come to arrest you or to deal with you? So the registry has its obligations. The registrar, which is the interface or the person that is getting the customers and registering the names after being given the permission by KENIC, also has certain obligations, but the registrant equally has their obligations. So when you are registering your domain name, and this is now to the users, because now we are discussing business, it's very important that you know your rights and you also know your responsibilities. It's like many Kenyans, we buy vehicles without logbooks.
Yeah.
And you only realize on the day you get an accident, or when someone has used your logbook to acquire a loan and you are not aware.
Yeah.
It's very similar to that. So to the registrants, it's very important that we understand we have a contract with our registrar, which we can use in case a dispute arises. But equally, we have a responsibility to give the right information. So in that particular question, somebody, you claim what you own, and you claim what you have a contract over.
Yeah.
So for the registrant, make sure you have a contract
Yeah.
that you can use to claim in case of a dispute. Sometimes a registrar can go under. What will you use? You know, it's a business. What will you use to show KENIC that actually this was the domain that you legitimately registered? If at all, probably the name, your name is in the name of that registrar. And back to the issue of logbooks, title deeds.
Yeah.
You are sitting on a piece of land that is not in your name. One day someone will come and say, I'm the rightful owner, and they will kick you out.
Yeah.
So in the same way, so I think for the case of developers are just people who assist us. It's like a contractor who helps you to build a house. So if you don't have your title deed, the contractor will come and lay claim to that piece of land, especially when it appreciates.
Yeah.
So the responsibility is on the owner of that domain name, whom we refer to as the registrant. And I think it's very important for registrants, if they are not clear with this, that they reach out to KENIC,
Yeah.
or they reach out to their registrar to understand this. And back to the issue of collaboration, we learn through comparing our experiences and notes. And this is one of the things that AFTLD does, comparing region across region. We have issues of language, which I may talk about later as I conclude, because the domain name system is basically in English. But you find some of these things I'm saying, I'm assuming that the registrant understands what is written in English. But in some cases, that's not the case. Yeah, so we may need to find ways of making sure that they actually understand responsibilities. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Barak. The next question, this one is for Beth from Anonymous. What is the process of getting a .ke domain name?
Thank you, Judy. First, you have the domain you want, check its availability. If a domain is available, you can proceed and check out our website. We have listed our very well accredited and licensed registrars. Check out their packages. Each registrar have a different package for what you want. The good thing is majority of them are really automated. So the process is straightforward till the payment level.
All right.
Yes.
And KENIC doesn't actually, you have registrars that actually sell the domain. And so each registrar has a different process of domain registration, or is it standard?
Majority use an automation system called WHMCS.
Yeah.
So it starts from the whois,
Yeah.
checking if a domain is available, if it's available, and then now you check out the package that you want.
Yeah.
If you want only a domain, they offer that.
Mm.
If you want hosting and any other services,
Yeah.
they also provide that.
All right.
Yes.
The next question also is for you. How can I offer cybersecurity services to KENIC? We aren't after Kazi.
I can-
Michael.
Hi, Michael. You can send us an email to support@kenic.or.ke. Send us your profile and we shall definitely reach out.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you. That sounds like a very politically correct answer, Michael. We are not promising anything. Thank you so much. I think, there's another question from Samuel Ndongo. Why should one go for .co.ke and not .com? What's the criteria which to use? Why is it challenging nowadays to register .co.uk domain from most registrars in Kenya? I think, Barak, this is where you shine.
Thank you. The domain name that you choose depends on your use case. For instance, right now we have .africa, which is a geographic top-level domains. We are actually starting a new round that will enable us to register new domain name. They're called new domain name strings. So hopefully in the near future, we will have .mombasa and we'll have .kisumu. So context really matters.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm saying that very soon we are going to have .kisumu and we are going to have .mombasa. There's another round of, it's called applications. for
Oh.
the opening up the route that is coming up in the near future.
That's interesting.
Yes. So for you to choose a .ke, the assumption is your customers are largely within the Kenyan territory and they identify with it. But assuming your business has a regional context, then probably you may choose a .africa. Or in some cases, there are people who are operating across the world. So they want to be identified as a global business.
Yeah.
You may choose a .com. So I think the context matters, but again, I would say that your registrar should actually advise you on the right domain name that it is for you. And I believe if your registrar is not able to do that, then KENIC is able to do that through activities such as this webinar that we are having, or even when you reach out to them directly for consultation.
All right. Thank you so much, Barak. I think that was short and sweet. I don't know. I think we'll take a question. I need Sharon. I don't know if she's still online. Is Sharon? Okay, she's not. Okay. So I will ask a question around cybersecurity again before we address the next few questions. And this will go to both Frederick and Beth in terms of cyber breaches. Advise us, what should we do if I'm an organization or a business? What should I do? What should be my first line of defense when it comes to a cyber breach? What should I do? Frederick.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for the sharing of the knowledge from my worthy colleagues here. We must, without sounding very complicated, we must be able to simplify what constitutes a cyber breach. And in a very simple way, if an event results into you as a customer, a consumer of service, into not being able to access a certain service, probably, let's say the internet, maybe an online platform or something, probably it might constitute maybe as a cyber breach if it's not about a downtime or something of the sort. So there's a shape and there's a form that a cyber breach looks like, something like an indicator of attack, indicator of compromise. And as organizations, cyber breaches, they affect a number of, let's say a number of victims. Number one is the government. We have the critical infrastructure. Number two, we have the individuals. So you can lose your privacy. So you can lose your reputation. Someone can access your information and you lose your privacy. Another one is an organization. So they can lose data. They can lose also finances. So depending on where you belong to, cyber breaches can be a pain, but at different measure. So number one, you must be able to know how to identify a cyber breach, because one of the reality is many organizations are already breached, but they are not aware. So there are some things which are just monitoring networks, something like, again, somehow technical, advanced persistent threat. So this is where the cyber criminals, they breach an organization and stay maybe on the network for a longer time. And before you know it, it becomes a challenge. So number one is to make sure that you have measures in place. So we have technical measures, we have capacity building measures, and people being the first line of defense. Cyber is not about only technology. So we have the processes, make sure that you enhance your processes. If you are a bank, ensure that somehow it is almost very hard for someone to have something like internal fraud or something of the sort. And also the people aspect, people being the first line of defense. Now we are in the month of Cyber Awareness Month. And there's a theme that we are drawing from the global theme. And there are four things that we are trying to promote. One of it being encouraging use of strong passwords. Make sure that across your platforms as organization, make sure that you have that. encourage use of multi-factor authentication. So this is where you have an additional layer where if you are logging into an online platform, you can use your phone to receive a text. Also encouraging how to notify, how to detect and report a phishing. How does a phishing email look like? Are you supposed to click? Are you supposed to submit it or forward it to the IT team? Have you made it possible for that to happen? And probably updating the softwares in your phone, updating softwares in your computers, and immediately after an attack, as I finalize on that, immediately after an attack, we usually encourage organizations to have incident response teams, incident response management, which now constitute a team, processes, tools, budgetary allocation, such that immediately after an attack, the IT team is not going to panic, but there are things they are going to do immediately to ensure that the business continues to operate as, as they conduct their forensic processes and all that. But above everything, all those technical things, make sure that you have access to technical people who can help you. Make sure you have the policies, the procedures, but the hackers will not first probe if you have a policy in place before they attack. So the policy is good, but make sure that there is evidence of you have implemented that policy in place.
Yeah.
So we are very good in policies, but when you try to probe evidence of implementation of the policy, it is not there.
Yeah.
So make sure that you have that. Make sure you inculcate a culture within the organization, right from the top up to the person who may be considered as the lowest within the organization.
Frederick, every organization, the first thing they do in case of a cyber attack is they switch off everything. Is that advisable?
Yeah, the reason they switch off is they are not prepared. We need to anticipate that we will be hacked. So when you anticipate that you'll be hacked, you put measures in place such that what is the first thing that you need to do the moment you identify there's an attack. So you need to know how an attack look like. There are things called zero patient. This is the machine that has maybe opened a door for the attack to happen. Maybe unplug it from the network. If it is good not maybe to switch it off, because you may lose very critical evidence that you need during the forensic process. So from there, if you have external people, call them on board, then make sure that your team is prepared. But if you don't have capacity, technical capacity, that is where we are here, also as an association, as experts who are technical, to also help you immediately you experience a cyber breach.
All right. Thank you so much, Frederick. And I know most companies, organizations don't even think around cyber attacks. Most people are like, why would I get hacked? And that question is always seamlessly very, it's never a good question. When somebody say, why would somebody attack me? I don't have anything to give them. But you don't know if you're leeway to something bigger. Maybe they're using you to get to your organization. So I've been in a situation where somebody was gathering information about the company, but they couldn't get anywhere. So they used somebody online, a staff who worked internally, and they used their machine. They used him as an individual to get into the organization because they could not get into the organization through the organization. So they used an individual. They used his personal life. They used his personal devices. This why they build bring your own devices policy is because of such situations. So when you start to ask yourself, why would I get hacked? Why would somebody really target me? Think about the bigger picture. Not just you, where do you connect? Who do you connect to? Who do you have access to? Yeah. If you start to think around that, then you start to understand why somebody would actually attack or target you. As a hacker, why I would target you. And it's easier to target one person as compared to a whole organization. A whole organization has built security protocols around it. They have huge budgets around security. They've bought very, very high-end machine learning, web application firewalls, or intrusion detection systems. So why would I go around all that? Well, I can just target one person who works there, who has no information about security. Yeah. So this being a cybersecurity month, this is what organizations need to think around their own people as their leeway into the organization. So Beth, the same question in case of a data breach, strategies around data breach, especially also for your registrars.
Okay, thank you very much, Judy, for that. Fred has really given detailed information about that, but I would also approach it from the side of data protection. Your data inventory. Do you know what data your organization have? Just the same way in your house, you know what is, in the kitchen, you know how you place your sugar, your what. In the same way in an organization, what data do you hold? Right? Secondly, data classification. Is it public? Is it private? Is it confidential? Because not everyone within an organization has access to all the data. So how do you make sure that that confidential data does not land in the wrong hands? And if it does, what are the consequences? We really have to be very futuristic when handling some of these incidences and issues. Something else, conduct regular data impact protection, regular impact protection, data impact assessments. These are like vulnerability tests. We should stop being reactive. As Kenyans, until something happens, that's when we take action. We should at least try and have drills in an organization, to anticipate, just like the way Fred has alluded to. Let us anticipate. Let us not just wait until we've been hacked. So what next? Because we all operate from an aspect of panic. And panic mode, you shut everything and you sit down and start like, so what do we do next?
Yeah.
Something else, let's also do monitoring and oversight.
Yeah.
From the onset. If you notice some very fishy things on the network, what next should be done? And finally, awareness. I'm really happy to hear Fred, being one of our registrars, talking about that collaboration in Barak. It takes a community. It takes all of us to make this menace at least to take charge.
All right. Thank you so much, Beth. I think we'll go to the question. There's so many. I will give this to Barak. Can you answer that? 2 questions. From Faith Linda. Why is the speaker of the view that we should not legislate a space that does not exist yet? The future is digital. I don't know what that means.
Thank you. I understand the question because I mentioned that comment at the very beginning. And thank you for raising that, Faith. It's more of a political question. And I would ask myself, if we had this webinar or this seminar in Mulot, for example, would the audience be able to participate? And I'm saying the local citizens in Mulot. So does it mean that .ke belongs to us who are online and not those who are in the village? Again, compare it if we had this conversation in Mandera or Wajir. So what do we need to do to onboard Kenyans who do not have the kind of privilege or the kind of opportunity that we have to be online? Because .ke is for all of us, not for the privileged. If you remember a few years back, you needed 10,000 shillings or 20,000 shillings to have an account in some of the established banks around, until some community banks came from around the corner and said that you can have an account without depositing any money, without having any money. And look at how the landscape has changed. They're not only leaders locally, they are leaders on the continental space and global players as we speak. And that's what we are saying regarding the domain name ecosystem. We need the right balance. It's good we are having this technical conversation, but can we have this conversation with our relatives back in the village? And life continues as normal. That's what I was saying. So back to you, Faith. I'm saying that there is no excuse for ignorance. But even as we legislate on the space, let's consider bringing more people online and throwing a spanner in the works. Last week, we saw an advisory from the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, finding a school somewhere in Limuru a couple millions of shillings for a data breach. Now, we need to understand that these schools are not just schools. They are homes. People take their children there when they're going to hustle. So when you find 20 million to this school, you have actually find a community 20 million shillings. Again, I'm not using it as an excuse because for the period I've been in the ICT space as a practitioner, it's either you are on the menu or you are on the table. There is always an agenda we are driving. The question is, whose agenda are we driving? I've said the domain name system has evolved from the global north to where we are. There are countries that are saturated, but must we go ahead and implement the same policies and procedures that are in those countries, which might act as barriers of entry or scare away potential people from coming on board? Yeah. Because remember, we can only have this conversation for as long as KENIC is a viable entity. It's a going on concern. Otherwise, we would not even have money to be able to have this webinar in the first place. So that's the question that I'm answering. Quickly, if I go to Blaze, Blaze, if your target market is in Kenya, it's good to have a .ke domain name, but you can have both the .ke and the .org. The technical infrastructure that we have can be able to accommodate multiple domain names that are running your website. But as I mentioned earlier, when you buy a .ke, what then happens is there are adequate resources for KENIC to even be able to organize training sessions for such as this. .com has about 150 million domain names globally. They are dealing with such a big space that if you brought your story from Mogotio, it will take a month for them to be able to solve it. But probably KENIC will take a month. So that's the context. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Barak. The next question is for Frederick as a registrant. Why is the .ke more expensive than the .com? Many Kenyans might not be inclined to purchase the .ke domain if there is a cheaper foreign domain. Maybe Frederick, as a registrant, you can tell us, because maybe the KENIC can answer the .ke, but you being a registrant who has a .ke and .com, you can help us understand that.
So why is .ke more expensive? I think answering as a registrar and also as a registrant, I think for us .ke, we are in that process of growth. You can see also even the numbers as well. And it is a call for us, mostly the Kenyans, to uptake more on .ke so that we can encourage that growth. And speaking from entrepreneur point of view, as a registrar, I encourage you to consider registering for .ke. One of the advantage is in case of a dispute, it becomes very easy, very, very easy to resolve such a dispute, considering that you can even just walk to KENIC office, compared to .com, where you have to, when you talk to ICANN, you talk to the registrars are not even maybe in the country. So the issue of the cost, I might not provide a very accurate response, but as an entrepreneur, we are promoting the .ke space. The more we have the numbers, the more the cost is going to come down. I know that fact for sure, that the more we promote this, courtesy of the digital transformation, the more the cost is somehow going to come down. So I encourage and challenge you, let's go for .ke.
All right. Thank you so much, Frederick. Next question for you, Beth, from Ellie Wenani. I can't see. Hello, what is your relationship with .ke resellers? Do you recognize them, or they will only deal with the registrar they are selling from?
Okay. At the moment, the relationship between there's no direct relationship between KENIC and the resellers, because our model is 3R: the registry, the registrar and the registrant.
Mm.
So we only have a contractual agreement between KENIC and the registrar.
Okay.
So the resellers come in between the registrar and the registrant. So the reseller is directly answerable, or rather they buy it from the registrar and not from KENIC.
Yeah.
So at the moment, no, we do not have any affiliation or rather connection with the resellers.
Yeah.
But we always hope that there's a contractual agreement between them
Yeah.
and the registrars.
Yeah.
Because in most of our cases, or rather the cases that you received with regards to domain disputes, these are the culprits. Our resellers really give us a lot of wrong information.
Yeah.
And it has been a struggle, as Fred mentioned earlier. And we are really requesting them that anytime they're registering this information, they should put their client's details. You know, if I'm registering Judy as a reseller, let me put Judy and not Beth.
Yeah.
Because we find most resellers go under and it becomes quite hectic to track.
Okay.
So we really encourage them to be giving the correct information.
Maybe we should have asked this at the very beginning. Who's a registrar? Who's a registrant? A reseller in the context of KENIC. I think we should have asked that at the very beginning.
So KENIC is the admin.
Yeah.
We administer the .ke.
Mm.
The registrars, these are the entities or individuals we have licensed and accredited
Yeah.
to register domains on our behalf. So from KENIC side, we provide a platform for registration.
Yeah.
The registrant, the owner of the domain, the end consumer.
The end consumer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, perfect. So we're gonna take the last question because the time is up. No? Sorry? 20 minutes. Okay. Oh, Fred, oh, you, okay, yes, please,
Yeah, I
Fred.
can also add on the reseller because as a registrar, we also have a number of resellers. And one of the reasons why we onboard them is to keep promoting the .ke namespace. So how does this reseller looks like? So a young person, probably they have finished their college and they want to generate an extra income because they have skills to develop websites. They want to also register domains for their on behalf of their customers. They have 5 customers, 10 customers. So when we onboard them, considering that we are data protection compliant, so we give them a specific policy and they must sign, which now binds them to data protection, cybersecurity, inputting the right and correct customers' information. And before we activate their registration for the domain, we always make sure that they have the right information. They know your customer details. So there's no time that they have forwarded the wrong information. And for the last few years, we have never had any issues arising from them. And also, it is important to note that some of them started as resellers just to promote, their growth. Eventually, they ended up being registrars. So it is one way of trying to build more capacity, especially for our young people, as they somehow take advantage of where we are. As they keep growing in the next 1, 2, 3 years, they now graduate into becoming their own independent registrars.
All right. Thank you so much, Frederick. I like this question from Angelia Oango. What happens when a data breach occurs and it is the fault of the registrar in that they did not implement the necessary security requirements? This question has to be answered by all 3 of you because it touches on security, data breach, domain security, and registrar security as well. So who do we start with? You want to start?
Yes, thank you for the great question, Angelia. I want to bring in a slightly different perspective, and that is the role of standards.
Yeah.
Because wearing another hat, I'm involved in developing standards at the Kenya Bureau of Standards, and the uptake of standards is not as what it should be. I think normally we buy products on the internet value chain, just the way we buy tomatoes on the street, but they require some systems and procedures. most of the cyber attacks are basically through social engineering. An email was sent, a small detail was left out. You know, like my name, Barak, I use RRACK, but probably you get an email from me with a single R, like Obama's name, for lack of a better word. And you just say, oh, this is the guy that I know. You implement it without checking.
Yeah.
So that's how a lot of the attacks are perpetrated. So I would say that for the registrars, it's critical that we have standard operating procedures that ensure that we check that the information we are dealing with is legitimate. There are a lot of security tools that Frederick has talked about, which are in his domains, which can enable us to be able to do that. These standards are very cheap at the Kenya Bureau of Standards. I think they cost about 3,000 shillings, and they deal with a lot of organizational systems, procedures, even if you are dealing with consultants, which you should have in place. Because remember, consultants are not your employees. They come and leave.
Yeah.
They can come and leave an open door, which can be used to attack you. So sometimes the issue is not the registrar. The issue is probably they are dealing with an outsourced system, which gets breached.
Yeah.
So I would say that standards are key. And again, just more awareness is important. But the buck stops with the person who's contract at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So the registrar, if they need to, for registrars, if they need to compensate the client financially, they'll need to compensate the client financially, because that's what the contract says.
Can I quote you on that?
Absolutely. It's the law of contracts.
Yeah. No,
That's
okay.
why we should have contracts,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if okay, so if my registrar has not actually implemented security around my domain, because I'm just buying a domain. As a client, I just want a domain so that people can communicate with me, right? Yeah. Sometimes maybe I will go to Kenik website and they do have suggested registrars that they work with. So I will just go by because I trust them. But then the people, I don't know if Kenik has actually put up security procedures that their registrars should follow when it comes to security. So for me, I just want to buy a domain from a legit person. So I don't know what Kenik has to say in that regard as well. Do you guys have policies around security for all your registrars when it comes to data breaches? What they need to have is like a compliance document on security for the product.
Thank you, Judy, for that. At the moment, no,
Yeah.
but we're in the process of coming up with the documents.
So-
that one is for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So what would happen if something was to happen to as a client, me as a client, data breach because of my registrar? Would Kenik come in?
Honestly speaking,
Yeah.
at the moment, we actually barely receive such kind of complaints
Yeah.
that a registrant coming to us telling us that a particular registrar is hosting with us and there was this security breach. They do not,
Yeah.
because we do not have the visibility of the hosting and all. But we always, at any given point, would always encourage the contractual agreement
Yeah.
and also them interrogating.
Yes.
There
Yeah.
should be that point of interrogation. So I want a website, I want emails, right?
Yes.
I want emails, I want a website. What measures should I take?
Yeah.
Or rather, what measures have you put on your end
Yeah.
to entice me
Yeah.
to take this package? It
Most-
should actually be some of the selling points.
Most people sell just SSL, Frederick. Yeah, most people just sell SSL.
Allow me to also add on that.
Yeah.
From a registrar perspective and from a cyber security professional, what we do is if that would happen, number one is not to deny that it has happened. Then we have to deploy technical skills to confirm about that attack, for instance, or the breach through the normal forensic procedures. And if we confirm that we are the one who caused that, we try to understand the nature of the attack And in this case, our relationship between the registrar and the customer is very symbiotic. And there are responsibilities that they have. For instance, after they register a domain with us, so we ensure that somehow we enforce specific measures that they have to implement, or even we implement on their behalf. Number one, there's usually a free SSL. Number two, we ensure that before they create emails, we ensure that the DMARC, the SPF, the DKIM, all these things are active. And when they start sending the emails automatically will be able to pick these things. Again, someone can buy a domain and they want to host a website. So we do not go a step ahead to help them upload the website. So what we do is that after we set up the account, we share the passwords. Probably they have their own IT person. So he is the one responsible in uploading the files and all that. So we try as much not to interact with their platforms and whatever they are using, such that we reduce the attack service from our side. Somehow our servers can experience a denial of service. So that one, we have to notify the customer that one of our servers are down for the next 1 hour. And we will have a way of trying to do something for the customer, and we own up because of that. Another one can be probably a denial of service, maybe our servers where we host, probably it has been breached. Somehow that has not happened. And I'm not saying it cannot happen, but we encourage customers to have backup of their emails, backup of their websites, such that if a breach occurs, there may be no data loss or even losing files for the website and all that. But it is possible it can happen. But at least as a registrar, make sure that you are compliant to the data protection law. It's only 4,000 for SME, a standard SME. Make sure you train, invest in training your customers, do free user awareness for your customers, do visit. Don't just say, receive check and money, and you don't even know what they do. Just go a step ahead as an add-on service. You can even charge them an extra service on security, just to make sure that they're secure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Frederick. I like that answer. There's somebody who's raised their hand. Kelvin. Sorry, that was earlier. Okay. So one last question from Angelia Oango. I think this will also go to Beth. How does one become a reseller if you're interested?
Thank you, Angela. I think you can visit on our website, kenic.wa.ke. We have our registrars and you can get in touch with them. I would also let Fred answer on that, on how they onboard resellers, because he's one of our registrars.
Okay. Frederick?
Okay, thank you. As one of the registrars, we encourage you to get in touch with us. You can send an email to info@secunets.co.ke, and the team will be able to respond, and we'll also chip in our resources in terms of insight and knowledge to be able to guide you on how you are going to run that business that you want to venture to. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I think this will be our last question from John. What is the process of regaining access or migrating domain record to another registrar for a .ke domain on a scenario of dealing with a registrar who has gone under? Who wants to take this one? Yeah. Okay. Regaining or migrating their domain from another registrar who's no longer in existence. The business went under. How would they regain their domain?
I think John is referring to domain transfer, right? Moving their domain from one registrar to another. So first, if you try to access your registrar or contact them and they're not reachable, the first thing is contact Kenic through support@kenic.wa.ke.
Yeah.
Let us know your domain was under a particular registrar and they are no longer accessible. So the first step we take as Kenic, we try to contact them. And if we get no response within 48 hours, we then give you something we call an authorization code. We give you that code so that you can now move the domain to your other preferred registrar. But again, you must show proof of ownership to see that the domain belongs to you.
What's proof of ownership exactly?
We need documentation like certificate of incorporation, tax compliance, PIN certificate, and a CR12.
Yeah.
That is to show that you actually own the domain.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. I think we can start with the closing remarks from Barak, Frederick, and then we can finish with Beth. Barak, the closing remarks.
Thank you very much. And I think firstly to just thank our audience for taking time to listen in and participate in this conversation. And to KENIC, we need more of this. And we need more of this, especially even beyond the city, because we have many Kenyans, 70% of our brothers and sisters who are not online are in the rural areas, and they're using Mulika Mwizi. And I think there's a very big market out there that we need to tap into or to reach out. It's good that in this season, we have a government that is focused on the information superhighway. Political will is normally necessary, but let us not lose this moment or this opportunity in time. Otherwise, I look forward. I think we've just scratched the surface.
Yes, we have.
We need more of this conversation, and I look forward to more of this, I believe, as and when KENIC is able to organize them.
All right. Thank you so much, Barak. We appreciate your presence. Frederick, closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, thank you to our moderator for the good work. Thank you also to the conveners. So this is a good start, especially on the line of cybersecurity. And we want to challenge you to have as many sessions as possible, especially now this is the User Awareness Month. It is a challenge for us to extend and stretch more, try to contextualize the conversation around our local challenges as a nation. And from the association side of view, we are going to also reach out for collaboration so that we can be able to assist and in developing some of these solutions, which can also be beneficial to the registrars as well. And to our audience, this being a User Awareness Month again, become a champion where you work, maybe in your house. Try to talk about cyber. Try to understand how you can inculcate that culture. You can be more conscious. Before you open an email, you are conscious that something can be hidden in that email. Try to look at your passwords. Try to look at if you have Facebook, do you have another, maybe a phone where if you try to log in, you get a code. When you visit these malls, the coffee shops, just make sure you don't just jump into their free Wi-Fi. Just try to be security conscious somehow. And I know that we'll be able to own that process and not pass the blame to the government, that even when you are hacked and it was your own mistake, you blame KENIC and you blame government. So we are able to take ownership of everything that concerns us. Again, thank you and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Frederick. I like that closing remarks. Yeah, things you can do for yourself. Don't blame KENIC, don't blame government if you can actually protect yourself. Beth?
Thank you very much, Judy, and for everyone who has tuned in. The conversation has just begun, so I look forward to many more engagements in future. What I'd like to add is security starts with me and you.
Yeah.
Just like the way Fred has said, let us not have blame games. And for this more, we'll be having a DNS forum in November to have a continuation of the same. So visit our website, dnsforum.ke, and get more information and register. It will be more hybrid. So I really look forward to seeing all of you there. And you're also currently having an auction process going on. Visit auction.kenic.org.ke, get yourself a domain, right? So buy Kenya, build Kenya. Get yourself a .ke. Thank you.
Beya Jioni at auction. At auction.kenik. All right, thank you so much. And first of all, I want to apologize for starting a bit late, but we hope it was worth the wait. Thank you to our participants and for joining us. We appreciate you being with us the entire process, and the questions were really good. It means you were listening and very keen to understand how we could help you in this ecosystem. Happy Cybersecurity Month. Security starts with you. Please protect yourself before you protect others. Even on the plane, they tell you, in case of an issue, first, create security for yourself, then protect your child. That's the protocol. So thank you so much to our audience for joining us. We hope to see you on the DNS forum. Na auction, Beya Jioni, tafadhali, let's meet there. Have a lovely day. Bye. How are you?